I don't care if you are a single owner of a business. The one thing that I did take away is that someone's always going to be the visionary and someone's always going to be the integrator. Someone's always going to be the one dreaming and someone's always going to be the one doing. And that might be you. You might be holding both hats. But eventually, at some evolution of your company, there will be someone that's a TJ and someone that's a Ross. And it doesn't matter if they are owners, but the void between them has to be monitored to where one can't outgrow the other. For instance, sales. Sales grew rapidly, way faster than production in our company. And that rubber band stretched, holy bro.
Yep.
But that was, you could pull a goddamn G note on that sucker. Like it was,
Yep.
It was extremely, the vast abyss was between them for a long time. And we took a lot of hits on the chin for that. But the evolution of how that happens and growing out of that and being able to pull that rubber band tight back is where you see what you talk about, the spurt, the slingshot. So what happens is it'll stretch way out and then all of a sudden it'll take off again. And the problem with it is if it's not ever growing that way, whether it's a partnership or it's sales and production or it's production and sales backwards, that would be a bad day, production and sales. But
it should be changing. If you're growing, it should be changing. Yeah. If it's not changing and you're not feeling the tension, you're not growing. If you're not growing, you're dying, right? So I think the bigger piece of that is this, and it goes back to what Nick Alfano said in the program. It's a true statement. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And part of that is you equate that to base camp mentality, right? Like we learned base camp. Mike taught base camps to us because I'm a high visionary. And you're the kind of guy that's like, I'm going to solve the problem come hell or high water. And so we're just running. So like you look at business like an ascent to Everest, right? We're climbing Everest, baby. And in your mind, you're like, I'm going to get dropped off in a helicopter at the base. And I'm going to run up to the top, take a picture. And I'm going to run back down and I'm going to be home for dinner with the family. And it does not work that way. Mm-mm. Even if you had the stamina to make that climb, you would die because your body doesn't have time to adjust to the different levels of elevation, get acclimated to different heights and new conditions and all these different things. And when you break it down like that in business and you learn, hey, we're getting there, but we got to get to this base camp. And we might hang out in this base camp for 2 weeks, 2 months, or a year. And there's a lot of things that impact that. And the higher up we get, the more intentional you have to become with that base camp and that mentality, because someone is telling you the best outcome, the best possibility for the outcome you want is you need this weather condition. You need to have been here this long. You need this much supplies. And you might wait. And you might be the trailblazer that wants to run through the storm. And you might get lucky and make it, but most don't. And so it's learning as you grow to control that instinct that you got to solve problems right now. And you got to circle back. And so like that happens from a visionary perspective too, is, hey, I could dream all I want to, but if we can't produce it, I got to come back. I got to stay in base camp. And so that you end up with this constant tug where it's like, he'll say, hey, I ran out here and he's back here on this rubber band thing. Part of that is sometimes it's snaps up to where you get to where I'm at, but more often than not, it's a meeting in the middle where I'm running back down like, all right, cool. Like we're here. And then we get up to this level together. And then it's like this exploratory phase and that rubber band gets stretched again. And then I run back down and then we get together and then we walk back up together. And I think the problem most people will have is the ego in the mind of going, well, I'm already up here. I'll just wait for them. And it isn't possible. That's not a partnership. That's not a commitment. And that's true inside the organization. You talk about the annual and all the things that we do is we're at a high level looking at way down the road. And if we don't come back down here and walk alongside them to the next base camp, they're not going to be ready to go from there to the next base. They're going to die along this way, right? It does me no good to be here and my team here. There's a constant back and forth piece of vision versus reality versus where we are, problems we're solving. And you got to be, in one accord walking together. It's okay to have one that runs out and runs back, and it changes, right? There's different circumstances where you're the one that's way up here And I'm like, I don't think that's a great idea. And then you come back down and we walk back up there together and we find commonality. But that's the cycle of business, and it never stops. It never stops.
Let me give you an example. This is how this worked. The first year of business, I was at REI still putting shit in the buggy. And TJ was on base camp 2 on Mount Everest. And you were like, God dang it, we don't need this in our buggy. That's the way it felt.
Yeah. 100%.
That's exactly the way it felt.